You are about to journey against the current of contemporary thought and beyond the troubled waters of daily news to the very source of our extraordinary culture. You are going upstream with Cashel and Edge.
Well, Mr. Edge, Jack Cashel here. You probably forgot about me.
Jack Cashel.
I've been gone for a while.
Itinerant Jack, the prodigal podcaster.
Back.
Back.
And welcomed arms by his spiritual father, Loy Edge.
I think you better apologize to the viewers, though, because we're a little late.
A little late in...
being on the air,
yeah,
or whatever you call this.
Right. We did take a reprieve, and it's my fault, not Loy's. I spent a few weeks at the Redneck Riviera, where I spent much of my summer. Actually, it's the Rust Belt Riviera. Let me be what it's
Rust Belt Riviera.
That's a little more accurate. The Redneck Riviera is claimed by the people who live along the Gulf Coast in like Alabama and Mississippi.
I understand that's a pretty cool place.
I've been through there, but never spent any time there. But the Rust Belt Riviera, which is overlooked, one of the great underestimated overlookings in our time, is basically it's the Great Lakes. And the Riviera part, however, most of the Great Lakes are entirely unswimmable. That includes Superior, which never gets over like 50 degrees. And
it's because it's cold and rocky, but not or polluted, or what?
It's just far north, and it's cold, and it's deep. Superior is the biggest, and it has a complex, being the superior of the lakes, right? They've named themselves Lake Superior somehow.
Wow.
And then there's other lakes with lesser esteem, like Lake Huron. It's called. You can't swim in that either. Even if it was, not because of the urine, but because of it's cold.
Well, I know there are the Great Lakes, and then there are the meh.
Right. Lake Erie, where is the home of the Rust Belt Riviera, is the Met Lake, is the smallest and the shallowest, but it's also the southernmost, which means it's the only one that's swimmable all summer. So thus, a Riviera of sorts has evolved on those shores, and that is where I repair for the summer, and where I go seeking umbrage where I could find it.
Boy, there's that word, Jack. That's the word I want to talk about.
I know, and you're great at coining terms. You've coined some other terms in the past.
I coin them all the time.
And now, is this one borrowed umbrage we're talking today, or stolen umbrage?
It's stolen umbrage, but it can be borrowed.
And returned?
I guess.
At your nearby library?
You got a little story about some stolen umbrage.
Yeah, I did. And, I talked about this a few weeks ago, but there's been some developments in the time since. I was invited to speak at a library in the Rust Belt Riviera.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the beach, mind you, but about a mile or two inland. And
you were invited to talk about your new book.
Yeah, my new book is called, I should mention that here.
Is that Untenable?
That is Untenable.
It looks like the one that's the true story of white ethnic flight from America's city.
That's the one and the same.
That is not a controversial topic.
It's not really.
It happened.
Yes, it did happen.
And all you did was give a well-researched first-hand accounting.
Yeah.
Combined with a historical analysis.
Right.
Without, I'm sure, any unnecessary accusations or ethnic slurs or anything.
Careful to avoid any ethnic slurs, I'd say. One rule of getting through life today is don't drop N-bombs on people.
Yes.
Yeah. Or any kind of other bombs.
No.
So, but what got them, I think, was that I italicized the word true.
That's not allowed.
Which suggests that everything they had learned to this point was something other than true. And as a result, even though this one sweet librarian invites me to speak, because I had another book that she liked, she had on the shelves, and my wife saw it, et cetera. And then a week later, I get the disinvite. Mm-hmm. And here's where we get to stolen umbrage, the whole concept of stolen umbrage, is that I get a lengthy email from the library director. It's very lengthy, told me where this was heading. Trouble, right? There's trouble in River City. That rhymes with T and starts with T and rhymes with P. Stands for pool. Well, this was dirty pool indeed. So we get into it, and of course, the library believes, and he gives me the boilerplate. We believe here in freedom of expression, et cetera.
First, it opens up with, Mr. Cashel, I hope you're having a
wonderful summer here on the Rust Belt Riviera, right? That's right. All the pleasantries that you'd expect from small town. It's as if, Barney Fife were sending you a traffic ticket, right? You're gonna buttress it with like pleasantries. So then we get into the gist of it, and here's where the borrowed part comes. Of course, he's open-minded. Of course, he believes in free speech for all, and they're committed to a diversity of opinions at the library. However, my opinions are not suitable, right?
You're Jack Cashel's, not him, the author.
My Jack Cashel's opinions and viewpoints are not, this is his word, suitable for their, quote, diverse audiences.
Right.
So this is the white man's burden he's assuming to himself, right?
Yes.
He's borrowing the umbrage, several hundred years of slavery, and putting it on his shoulders.
That's right.
Is the white savior complex. True, the town is less than 2% black, but that didn't stop him. And we see that all the time. We see this phenomenon all the time.
We see it because it's really the fundamental go-to
right.
of all this misdirection, obfuscation. We're seeing it so clearly now, which is why I want to talk about it, because it's really time for good people who see this to understand what they're seeing,
right, and
call it out, because we have to,
right,
because contrary to what you believe, we're about to lose the republic.
Well,
unless your opinions changed over the last 2 months and you're now in the Loy Edge camp.
Well,
could that be, Jack?
No,
it's happened before, so you can admit it if you want.
It has happened before. Once. So once in the last 40 years, I've made one mistake.
Okay.
And you caught it.
Okay.
But I am not as far down that negative slope as you are. I'm more.
Okay.
I remain the Pollyanna of the two of us, which is,
But you do agree that it's time that people start assuming the responsibility, since we have no control over media,
right,
that we each individually have to create our own wall of media. We have to become our own mass
That's right.
media.
And when we see
do it
someone
individually,
and when we see someone trying to steal umbrage,
yes,
we have to stand up and say something. I'm going to give you a great example of someone who did that. I was watching this clip just yesterday. It's out of Australia. You may have seen this. This woman is the head of the the Aborigine, the Aborigine equivalent of the NAACP, right, in Australia. Now, of course, there's no Aborigines in Australia, just like there's no indigenous people in the United States. They all came from someplace else. So, but nonetheless, this woman is, and she apparently has a white father and her Aboriginal mother, an Abo, what they call them for short. But I'd probably be pulled off the air.
Yeah, that sounds a little like Packy or something.
It kind of does.
Yeah,
I don't know. It sounds nice. It sounds like a nice word, but it's probably not. So anyhow, she's sitting on a panel filled with white people, right? And they're trying. And the question they raised to her is, they're borrowing, stealing her umbrage, putting it on themselves, and saying, what have we done? We did so many terrible things to your people. You must be really bitter now and all this. She goes, bitter? She goes, we have running water now. She goes, my grandfather had to chase around the desert looking for ants to eat, And now we've got house, we've got food, we've got shelter, we have opportunity. We have the world wide open to us. She goes, Australia is a great country. People come from all over the world here because there's so much opportunity. And it comes our way too, right? And this is freaking them out, right?
Yes.
Because they've stolen her umbrage, and she's yanked it right back away from them.
That happened here, too.
Yeah.
You remember the guy who talked about the bodies floating down the Congo River?
Yes.
And I can't remember who it was, but he was an author, and he was getting trouble from umbrage stealers. And they were trying to shame him.
Yes.
And he was a black author. And he called him out and said, you have no idea what you're talking about. I was just over there. And if my people were from the Congo, I saw it. Bodies floating down the Congo River all the time. People who were victims of violence and murder
Right.
in this horrible place. He goes, I love the Western society in America.
Right.
I'm just thankful that, that my ancestors were taken over here.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to be thankful for. But unfortunately, these umbrage dealers are always trying to remind them.
Oh, yeah.
So, and let me just the cap off of this Aboriginal conflict with the colonial powers there. Well, they said, okay, she's talked them out of feeling sorry for her immediate situation.
Right. She kind of blew him out of the water
Totally.
on that one.
Yeah, I mean, they hadn't obviously.
What do you say to that?
They hadn't seen the movie Walkabout. They didn't know what life was like back there So then they said, here's where they go. They go deeper. They said, but still the horrors of this experience of your colonization and your oppression by the white man must have traumatized your people and your culture. She goes, well, my father's people came over here in chains from England. If there's trauma, it's on that end. It's not on this end, right? And then now they were totally floored, right? I mean, her father, it was a prison colony. The original founders of Australia, many of them came in chains, and usually for things like not returning their library book on time or something. I mean, a debtor gets put on a ship in chains and goes to Australia. Some of them came to the United States, and Georgia was a penal colony for a while. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they tried to steal our umbrage. She took it right back and dismissed it. I have no reason to be bitter. I have no reason. Umber comes from the Latin for cloud, to live under this cloud.
It's funny you talk about the etymology of that. It's one of those rare words that has a dual meaning that are contradictory, kind of, or nearly contradictory. Umbrage, taking offense for something that is, taking umbrage is being offended.
Being offended, right.
And
usually is something.
That's what they're hoping, to steal.
Right.
But it also means shade and protection, like an umbrella.
That's correct.
So it can work either way.
Right.
And that's why the word is perfect for what it is.
It is, right, because
they hide behind the umbrage.
Yes.
They hide under it. Keep and it's their protection.
Yes.
And then it's also the way they accuse you of creating umbrage for other people.
Yeah.
Oh, people, that's just not polite, or that's not right. I mean, you're getting chastened by these. This is part of the whole shaming process, and this whole. I can't remember what we called it. It's like a mini. We were talking about the aggressions and things. They're out there using those. They're doing little mini aggressions.
Oh, right,
microaggressions to
right.
everybody, and they use this umbrage thing all the time.
Right.
But I just think it's time for people to become aware of it in real time.
Right.
Because it's gonna happen. I'd say 90+% of the time that they're throwing out these nonsensical things to, the complexity industries coming in to muddy up the works on every issue.
Right.
Well, they use umbrage, stolen umbrage, all the time. And really, you just got to think about it and learn how it's done and catch it next time in the act, because it's really important that we start calling it out and ridicule people for it so they stop it.
That's right. And umbrellas or not, it's time for us to rain on their parades.
It is.
And, and we're here in Johnson County, Kansas, which doesn't sound like much to people who are not in this area. But Johnson County is I'll lead it a little strong. It's the most comfortable county in the two-state area. The most affluent, comfortable county. It's a totally suburban county. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong in Johnson County. I mean, there are no ills in Johnson County. So what they have to do is they have to borrow ills from other people or steal them. So if you recall, there was the congressional election of, I guess it would have been We got 24 coming up, probably 2018. Yeah, it must have been. It was a bad Republican year. This district had a Republican congressman. Do you remember him?
Not really.
Well, he's a friend of mine. I forgot his name too, so it doesn't. He wasn't memorable, Sorry, when the name comes to me, I'll say, "Sorry, Mac, you weren't exactly."
But that's
memorable.
really bad when you can't remember it,
right?
Because you remember, you got to steel trap mine.
But he was. So we had an election coming up, and he was vulnerable because 2018 was to be a bad year for Republicans because the media for the preceding 2 years, instead of reporting on the incredible economic and progress and foreign policy improvements we made in those 2 years, the first 2 years of Trump, it was Russia, Russia, Russia all the time.
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
utterly dominated the news. So the Republicans would go on to lose 41 seats in a year. They could have gained seats otherwise. So they put up an American Indian. They borrowed her. I mean, literally, speaking of borrowing umbrage, they had to recruit her from some reservation in South Dakota, Sharice Davids.
Oh, yeah.
And not only that, even better, she's a lesbian American
Right.
Indian, right? So if you're the emerging woke crowd in a county like Johnson, where you define yourself as being woke, literally awake, as opposed to your dormant, sleeping neighbors who are, sort of stupefied by their own affluence and their various indulgences. So they have to think of what is our cause this year. What is the thing we're going to put on on yard signs? Because we have to have a message.
You got a virtue signal with something.
And you remember what it was?
No.
This was widespread. No more kids in cages, right?
Oh, my gosh.
No more kids in cages.
That was stolen.
I mean,
Because those were Obama's cages.
that's right. They stole his
They
cages.
stole his cages.
They send AOC down to the border to kneel and weep at the sight of some cage or another.
And see, everybody knew that
Right.
because that was everyone in the right hemisphere of the world
Right.
knew that.
Uh-huh.
Just like they knew all these things about Obama and Biden before the election.
Right.
But not a thing was heard. But they knew that those were Obama's cages.
Yes. And they're not really cages. They're just holding areas. Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is their whole narrative.
Metaphorical overload.
Metaphorical allusions to it's a prison.
Right.
It's a prison.
It's worse.
That's
It's like an
great.
animal. It has animal.
It's like an animal.
Right.
So, and they did use that a lot.
Right.
They're like animals. It's just blah blah blah. And Trump said all those. They're not sending their best people. And it's like you called everybody a murderer,
Rapist.
and a rapist. Trump called all of them rapists. So
Yeah.
that's another case
Right.
of stolen umbrage. So what I'm saying is almost everything they do to advance their narrative is stolen umbrage. It's time to figure it out a little quicker off the draw so that you can hit them, bam, right when they come out with it. But you've got to have 2 or 3 people laughing, shaking their head, going, oh, really?
Right.
It's like, you realize what you're saying, don't you?
Yes.
And that's what never happened. It never happened in the media. And if you think the media is going to do it,
No.
nobody will hear it because it'll be it'll be a podcast over here or this. These guys are never going to hear it.
No, and right, the laughter is the way to deal with it. And there are, like I say, kids in cages. You're in Johnson County, Kansas. You're, 1,200 miles from the border. I don't know how long, exactly close to that. It's not a part of your life. It's not a part of your problem. It's not even a part of the problem of the kids in cages. They're happy to be there.
That's right.
Their parents sent them there,
Yeah. It kept them from getting rolled.
Yeah.
I would want a cage if I was with a strange place and I didn't know anybody and I had to close my eyes and go to sleep. I'd say, throw me in with these 5 kids and lock the door because I don't want any of those.
Right. Don't let those sexual predators at me. Don't let those people trafficking little children at me, And they're out there. I mean,
I'll work for the government.
Did you see the movie Sound of Freedom by any chance?
No.
It's a very powerful movie.
Heard
It
that.
came out this summer. The first 20 minutes are horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to, no matter how mellow you are, you want the death penalty for people who traffic in children. What they do is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was the way they rolled then. And yet, sometimes it comes back to bite them in the butt.
It does.
Just a year ago, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City,
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
was out there saying, we're a sanctuary city. People should be more embracing and more accepting. I mean, just a year ago.
Yeah.
They speak as though there is no such thing as videotape in the internet, as though their words once said are heard and then they disappear. Well, they don't. They're forever. And then last week or a couple of weeks ago, here's Eric Adams again, bemoaning the 120,000 illegals who are flooding his city. And he says this is the one problem.
Destroy New York.
Yeah, I mean, if COVID didn't, and if crime isn't, and the other self-destructive mechanisms that the left has put into place I don't think they thought it all the way through.
No, they never do. And every leftist argument is circular.
Yeah.
Never forget it. It's always circular, and it never resolves. And that's because they're just waiting for the next trick to throw into the deal.
Right.
And this is a great example you just brought up, because the big umbrage that he stole, okay, you people who all we did was open the borders and not follow the law and tell all the people that we've paid to enforce the law to stand down,
Right.
and lie about it. And that's all we did. And like, sheesh, what a bunch of soreheads. The mayor was out there saying, how dare you all, judge these people harshly.
Right.
And it's on you, and you're creating, you're a bigot, and you're selfish, and all this stuff, just laying the guilt on you,
Right.
to preserve the dignity and respect of those individuals and all we did was break all the laws, and you're getting all upset, and then all of a sudden he had to bring that back again, and now the city's being destroyed, and somehow I guess it's still everybody's fault, but Joe Biden and their administration.
Yeah. And now he's saying, how dare Texas send those people here?
That's right. How dare Texas? They ought, and then they wanted to, and then the rhino in Texas wanted to pass a law that said if you land in Texas, you got to stay in Texas. It's just crazy. But
umbrage borrowing. Here's a story that didn't make the news. I got it from a friend of mine who lives on Martha's Vineyard, and he tracks the local Martha's Vineyard newspaper. Mm-hmm. You remember about a year or so ago, Governor DeSantis of Florida sent a plane full of illegals up to Martha's Vineyard. A wonderful little
a great ploy. Yeah, that was beautiful.
And, of course, they panicked, behaved just as you hoped they would, and sent them off to some army base 2 days later.
Yeah.
However, I don't know, it was last week, a couple weeks ago. It was because it was the 1 year since that happened. They had a reunion in Martha's Vineyard in which they paid. They had a fundraiser to reach out to these 35 people who get this, sent who knows where, right? For them all to fly back for a reunion where they would get to meet again with a handful of ladies who made cookies for them in the 2 days they were there. You'd have to see the self-congratulation going on and the projection of their virtue as opposed to your
again, that's what the whole purpose is of virtue signaling like that, is to say, and you're not.
That's right. And what they're doing it, I don't know if these people want to go back to Martha's Vineyard for this stupid picnic or whatever. And there's a hurricane coming up the coast while this is going on. I was kind of hoping it would hit Martha's Vineyard just a little bit.
It'd be funny if they got a thanks but F you letter back from the immigrants,
Yeah, right.
It's like, why do I
Do we have to?
It's kind of nice here. That place is a dump.
Right. The airfare is okay. I'm sure they got letters like this or response like this. The airfare is like this. Okay. Can you sweeten this deal a little bit? I know you want to let the world know how superior you are. Make it worth our while, right? Because I got to give up a job. I got to give up 3 days of lying around shooting, meth or whatever I'm doing, mugging people in the streets of El Paso, whatever I'm doing. and come up here. No, you gotta give me a what do you call it? Name engine, like in the have in college sports now. An NIL deal. Do you know about this?
No.
NIL stands for name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
So now college players, even though they can't get paid by the university, they can arrange deals if their name, image, or likeness is being used by, and it's not unfair, I suppose, is being used by manufacturers like shoemaker manufacturers or, video game stuff. They get a cut. Some of them making good money, like millions, while they're still in college.
Cool cigarettes.
Right.
Jack Daniels.
Colt 45. No, don't go to there. My at Purdue, which is I follow Purdue sports. They have one guy who came back for his senior year. He's Chinese, actually, Canadian Chinese, because he could make more through NIL deals than he could in the NBA.
Huh.
I mean, so it's out there. But in other words, if I'm one of those migrants, those star migrants now, whose umbrage has been stolen
Yeah.
and being restolen, so these people could, cloud height, can project themselves with their virtue.
Yet I've never heard one complain.
Someone whose umbrage was stolen?
No, one of the illegal immigrants.
No.
I mean, they're like,
Right.
they're better off.
Right.
Sorry.
I mean, right. That's right. Because what happened is the people in Martha's. There's some influential people in Martha's Vineyard. And all the Democrat politicians go there, including John Kerry and Barack Obama.
What a crowd.
So what the people of Martha's Vineyard did, they didn't want them on the island. They kicked them off, but they arranged for all 35 of them to get work visas. They jumped the queue for their little pet Guatemalans. Or actually, they're Venezuelans. They jump the queue for them because that's the way they work in their world.
That's how they roll.
That's how their kids get into Harvard.
That's right.
They don't get. They're not getting affirmative action letters saying you don't meet our quota. No, they're getting jumped in the queue their whole lives, just as their parents did.
And as they're taking that elite advantage,
Right.
they still want the moral high ground.
So they have to steal umbrage.
I want it all. I want to steal the crap. I want my elite status. I want to be able to jump the queue, and I want to be able to disperse umbrage as I see fit.
That's right.
And since I have none, I'm going to take some
Yeah.
from somebody else, and I'm going to shame people with it. Well, we got to start clubbing them right back.
Right.
And just, it's really time. And I think if people think about this, this is a key turning point, and we need to everybody needs to start articulating the fact that they know what they're up to when they're doing it. And
Right.
then, as I say, ridicule them, because that's really what they're doing it for, ego enhancement, and for these. If you ridicule them, it's just gonna they're gonna say, well, it doesn't work anymore.
Right. I mean, you can do that. I think it has that potential. I think it's the way to go.
So you risk a little friendship issues sometimes, but you got to do it.
Sometimes.
I mean,
to
this
save
is
the republic.
This is war.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's an information war,
Yeah.
and it's about to get other ways. It's nut cutting time here.
Well, your clubbing image, it's going to seem like a little stretch, but made me think of
Get ready with the dump button.
baby seals,
Oh, God. Yes.
right? So they borrow umbrage. There was allegedly baby seals were being clubbed, and we were alleged to supposed to care about that. Now, I hate to see if I saw a baby seal being clubbed on my block, I would intervene, right? Mm-hmm. What goes on in the Arctic should stay in the Arctic. I don't know. But not only did they borrow umbrage from people,
Yep.
they borrow umbrage from animals. But the trick is, so they want us to empathize with the baby seals. But in their world, there's a hierarchy of value based on one factor.
Cuteness.
Cuteness.
Yes.
Exactly.
I nailed it.
You
That's
did.
right. Cuteness of the animal.
The cuteness of the animal. So baby seals are cute.
Yeah, oh, undeniably.
Pandas are cute.
So cute.
Koala bears.
Love them.
Who could not love a koala bear? So you do anything you could to protect them. And to bathe in their reflected glory. Because now you are one with the koala bears.
And I saw the ultimate retort to that. That is exactly what we're talking about, that takes their stupid baby seal clubbing umbrage theft
Right.
and throws it right in their face. And I laughed so hard. I laughed out loud. I was guffawing.
Uh-huh.
This guy had on a T-shirt, and you know the old I Heart New York?
Right, right.
Well, he had I, and instead of a heart, it had a club, baby seals. Now,
That's cold.
that was hilarious because it's like, it just shows the absurdity of this man in Kansas
Yeah.
having to deal with the topic of
Baby
annual
seals.
baby seal harvest.
Right. Right. Where now they want to kill for instance, in countries like Ireland, they're asking them to kill 20% of their livestock because they fart too much. And I mean, literally. And but no one cares about them.
No, they're
'Cause
not cute.
They're not cute.
You eat them.
No, exactly. Right.
Not cute.
Not at all. Dolphins were cute, so you had to protect dolphins.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were cans of tuna that say dolphin safe now.
Yeah.
No dolphins were harmed in the production of your lunch.
Or in the making of this movie. It moves on. I mean, animals that are not cute, of course, are grist for their mill, literally. So no one cares about.
Here comes ugly animal time. I
Yeah.
can't even think of any.
We've screened them out of our lives.
That's right.
Yeah, ugly animals. I mean, we know rats. That's too obvious.
Yeah.
You can hunt rats for your heart's content. Now, if rats, though, have furry tails, like squirrels, I mean, the difference between a rat and a squirrel is the tail.
Well, the squirrel's got a cute tail.
Right. And so squirrels then become stars of TV comedies like Rocky, right? You could do a Rocky, can you not?
Hey! No, that's Bullwinkle.
Yeah, Bullwinkle.
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a moose thing out of my... Oh, no. Again?
Yeah.
I did meet the gal that did
Rocky?
Rocket J. Squirrel.
And, I always thought him a kind of a effete, unworthy character.
I'm with you.
But he was cute because he had a nice tail. So if someone wanted to kill Rocky, you would take umbrage at that. You would be upset.
Of course.
But and even mice, are rendered cute by Disney, etc. But rats, relegated to the world of the unloved and unwanted, and no one does anything to protect them.
No.
Let alone that fly that just flew in here. Gosh.
And how about those things that spin around that create energy, killing all those birds?
Condor Cuisinarts.
Who cares about condors? They're
Right.
ugly.
Yeah, right. However, now they're killing whales.
Yeah, I heard that.
And now we get into
Everybody knew when they read that press release
that,
oh boy, here's a whole bunch of complexity.
Right, because
Now it's killing whales.
Condors don't count. Whales are another issue.
Yep.
So then we have dueling umbrages.
We do. We have the one kind and the other kind.
Right.
They're both umbrage. Which umbrage?
Right. One of them is going to bite the dust before the day is over. Any local examples that you can think of? We're here in Kansas City.
Everything.
Yeah.
You name the crazy political football,
Right.
because every political football has stolen umbrage.
Yeah.
Because somebody's not following the facts. Somebody's going for the emotion.
Right.
Only one party is in the argument will be concerned about reaching the best and highest solution that will, bring more accountability and responsibility into the process of government.
Uh-huh.
The other party is just simply creating umbrage.
Right.
That's really what they do.
That's right.
And that's, the more I think about it, it's like I could do one of those, I could guess your weight at the carnival. I could guess the umbrage. You tell me
How much the umbrage?
what's going on, what's the issue, and I'll point out the umbrage.
Well, I'll give you an example, not from Kansas City, but a couple weeks ago in Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. An 11-year-old boy was shot and killed, which is totally unfortunate. It happens in Chicago routinely. Mm-hmm. But in Albuquerque, it's relatively rare.
Was he shot, or did he catch a bullet through a wall or a window?
He could have bullet on it was a drive-by that wasn't intended for him.
Okay.
But they were leaving a sporting event.
Okay.
Of the minor league baseball team in Albuquerque, the name of which totally escapes me, having never known it before.
I'm sure it's changed in the last 10 years because it was something inappropriate, and they used false umbrage, stolen umbrage to change the name,
right?
Which is another prime example.
Right.
It's like I said, I was sitting in Venice Beach with a table full of Mexicans, and we were all singing the Frito Bandito song,
right?
And they said, "We love Speedy Gonzalez." And they were all pissed, frankly, that they were having their umbrage stolen.
That's right.
And had eliminated two of their favorite characters. And they knew every lyric of the Frito Bandito song. And they knew that Speedy Gonzalez knows everybody's sister. They knew that.
They knew that. It's
they
part
loved
of their culture.
him.
They grew up with him.
They loved him.
And now let's think of the people in Cleveland and Washington. So the
yeah.
I mean, they were the Cleveland Indians.
That's a great example. And a lot of the tribes are coming out going,
hey,
you stole our cool thing that we were proud of.
Right. Now that's gone. In Washington, they took the Redskins, and they give them names that are bizarre.
Yeah.
In Cleveland, the Guardians, right? I mean, does that not speak to the role they see for themselves?
Of the umbrage theft.
Right,
Literally, they should call it the Washington Umbrage.
The umbrage stealers. No, I don't think that'll work. The WUS, W-U-S, Washington Umbrage Stealers. Instead, in Washington, they're the Commanders.
Oh, man.
Who thought these names up?
People that you wouldn't want to have a beer with.
No, I think that's people who don't drink beer.
That's right.
And if they do, it's Bud Light for show. Right?
I drink. Well, I've had to start drinking Bud Light now.
You know, it's odd because I was in a restaurant last week, and I ordered I said, "What kind of light beer do you have on tap?" You know, and I got like a Coors Light or something, but it comes in a Bud Light glass, like a mug. And I said, "Oh no, yeah, Bud Light mug." She goes, "I know, everyone says that." You know?
Well, you know what? Change it.
Right. Well,
are those people by any chance paying customers that say that? Well, yes. Well, then change it.
No, what they do is, they usually say it comically because it's a little embarrassing sitting there with a Bud Light mug. But Bud Light, lays all these, swag on them for various promotions. And so it's all sitting around. They're not going to let it go to waste. But now there's been a lot of course, attempts to take away the Chiefs' tomahawk chop.
Chiefs and chopper, Chiefs and I love that, man.
And of course, a lot of the Indian tribes, I don't know who's the Indian tribes today, are like a half a dozen people with a casino. I mean, it's not there's not really many tribes in any real sense, certainly in this part of the world. But they were the ones who speak up, say, "Hey, we like the chop. We like Chief Arrowhead, or the guy who rode it around on the." They still do that? The guy on a horseback?
No, I don't think they have war paint anymore.
Yeah. Oh, was that the name of the horse? War
Paint?
It
was War Paint.
Yeah.
I told you what I think they should replace the chop with, didn't I?
What's that?
Pew, 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 pew. Shooting a gun all over. Yeah, but anyway, that probably won't work.
We'd have to change the name of the team then to the Kansas City
what they used to be called.
The original, the OGs.
Kansas City, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They were Dallas.
Before we went to Dallas, right?
I guess.
No, is that right?
No, the Dallas Cowboys are the team that's currently in Dallas.
Dallas Cowboys. There was I think the Chiefs weren't the Dallas Texans?
Texans, I think they were. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. We should know that.
But the Chiefs was the Kansas City name.
Right, and that was
H. Roll Bartle.
Right.
They were named after
but
the
Lamar
mayor.
Hunt, the guy who basically founded the American Football League and who also created and named the Super Bowl, he was Texan, obviously, from the Hunt family. And I think they started their life in Dallas, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Nice guy, by the way. I was a young kid, went with my dad to the opening of the Worlds of Fun.
Yeah.
And that guy, Lamar Hunt, was, of course, the big man on campus, and I'm standing there at this press conference. He goes out of his way to come over and make this kid feel comfortable and put his arm on my shoulder. What do you think? How are you, buddy? I mean, he was a great guy.
No, I never met him. I've met his son, Lamar Jr., who's a very conservative Catholic and stuff. He's
Really?
a big philanthropist. Yeah. I want to talk, maybe even close with the greatest umbrage theft in recent times.
Oh, boy.
Utterly consequential. And I'll set this up by saying that after St. George Floyd died in May, I think it was May 26th, 2020, I knew they were planning protests in Kansas City on the plaza, in the park next to the Country Club Plaza, which they've effectively ruined. And my office is about a mile north of the plaza, and my house is a mile south of the plaza. And I went to work every day during COVID. I just ignored it. And but I knew I was going to have to drive through that park to get home. So I'm thinking, who's going to be there, right? Now, in a world without umbrage theft, it would have been filled with black people who identified their fate with George Floyd, however bogusly they might do that. So that's what I'm bracing for. But instead, I come through the park, and it's a sea, a literal white sea of chubby girls with pink hair.
Uh-huh.
Hundreds of them, thousands of them, right? I mean, not all of them were chubby, but the chubbiness.
Some of them had purple and green hair.
Right. The chubbiness crowds out the thinness, right? So you have 2, 3 chubby girls. The thin girl just disappears into the chubbiness. You don't even see her. I don't know why that is. Why female protesters today are chubby. They used to be pretty good looking in the Bernadine Doran era, where
Still
they
got
wore
her on
miniskirts.
your mind, don't
Yeah,
you?
I still do. We were tight. We broke up. She took
like
up
her.
with Bill Ayers. Yeah, it was one of those things. But no, that was it. Mass umbrage stealing all across America by girls, and it was disproportionately female.
Yeah.
Although there were some males involved. The males I saw, because of my office right on Westport Road, so I see that. They were coming in from out of state with out of state plates and heavy backpacks. They were meant business. They were there. They were the organizers. They were the ones herding the sheep into this giant holding pen. And then, if you remember, they didn't know what to do with the sheep, so they marched them around the whole town for like a night. Were you here for that?
Don't remember.
I remember because I was watching it on TV, and I only live, less than a mile south of that of the holding pen, and they came within a block of my house, and no one knew where they were going. I mean, they must have marched them around town for about 2 hours. Now, on the positive side, the pink-haired chubby girls
Got some exercise.
they got some extra. That's right. Probably more than they've had in a long time, and they are not inclined to break windows. That's not their thing.
No, they stop at breaking wind.
Yeah, right. They content themselves with that. And, of course, they suspended all COVID rules for this.
Oh, well, this is more important.
Yeah, right.
It's important to get out there and shame those white males.
Right. Because
the power structure.
Yeah, umbrage stealers have is an immunity to disease, right?
They do.
It gives them that. It's the magical power of umbrage theft. And had we known that, we've been out stealing umbrages ourselves.
It shows you how high the status of umbrage stealing is in their, higher, as this is a duty.
Dude, it's a sacred obligation.
It's a sacred obligation. It's the top.
Right.
Why can't I think of that word? Pavlov's hierarchy.
No, Maslow's hierarchy of need.
Hierarchy.
Right. Yeah, right.
But at the top of their hierarchy is this. I mean, that's their number one go-to weapon.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you're attacking. You're raging against the machine. You're fighting power. You're coming out, giving it to the man. you just pick your phrase. It's all about stealing umbrage. And by damn it, if they haven't done anything wrong, we'll manufacture something.
Well, speaking of that, let me close with one story, because I wrote a book on intellectual fraud called Hoodwinked.
There we go again. You've written a book on every topic I bring up.
I wrote a book on umbrage theft. Did you see that? Umbrage theft. I stole the concept from you before you even knew you had the concept in your head.
Damn.
It's called umbrage theft.
MK Ultra tricks.
250 years of misplaced guilt. But one of the stories I covered was a book called Rigoberto Menchú. Rigoberto Menchú was a Guatemalan peasant whose brother and father were rounded up by the CIA-backed, Contra-type people in Guatemala, the reactionary conservative types, taken into a town square and set on fire. And 30 or 40 of them were killed, right? Mm. That's, it seemed like a bad thing and something one could take umbrage about. She was picked up by the French really moved in on her, the French radicals. They helped her write her book, I, Rigoberto Menchú, and the international bestseller. She wins a Nobel Prize, right?
Automatic.
She wins the Nobel Peace Prize given to the...
Got that real foreign-y sounding name. Right. Give it to her.
And she dresses up in colorful, Indian...
It's all like a dashiki to me. It all looks like a dashiki.
What happens is this American anthropologist is working in Guatemala on his PhD project. Mm-hmm. Just some straight guy, trying to get at the facts, doing this, that, and the other thing. And he runs into this story. And he's a serious researcher. He said, I can't drop it. Can't drop this where it's leading. And it turns out it never happened. I mean, she was the Jussie Smollett of Guatemala. It's as if Jussie Smollett got a Nobel Peace Prize. That's how bad this was. And then he faces the dilemma of breaking the story, a story that no one wanted to hear, right? No one wanted to hear it. And it kind of got out. And it was established, it was backed up, it was authenticated, that the National Guard in Guatemala is not going to put 40 people in a square and burn them alive. That's just crazy, however bad you may think they are. So, but it does get out and it doesn't get out, because I just look up Rigoberto Menchú just before on the show. And I saw, and I had to scroll. There's no mention of this. I had to finally put in Rigoberto Menchú fraud. And finally, it all shows up. Yeah, it was verified, validated. But on Google, I could have...
It gets very silent when they get called out, which is why we have to stand around like bleeding sheep and shame them with ridicule.
Right.
And give them a taste of real shame. No, you did this.
Yeah.
You just perpetrated this lie. You did this. Shame on you. Real shame on you, not fake shame like you just said.
Yeah.
And we got to be relentless.
Yes.
We've got to stop it, because what happens is they never retract it. If just silencing them is not enough.
No.
Because the real story never gets out. They just move on. Good enough. Job done.
Right.
We buried that in manure. Yeah. Nobody will ever find it. And off they go.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute. Now I have umbrage. You just plopped a big plop of umbrage on me.
Yeah. And just a closing umbrage story, because there's a built-in justice to this. And that is, and I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. I don't remember it. They made a movie about it. Is it Werner Herzog, who's the guy who makes these movies?
Yeah.
About the guy who goes to Alaska to live with the bears.
Yeah.
And he's filming the experience. Because, you see...
Was it Klaus Kinski, the star in it, or something?
No. It was a true life story.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a documentary in which the guy stars because he filmed it. And basically, his message to the world was, this is me here. I am with the bears. I am one with the bears. He was so totally one with the bears that they ate him. they ate him right down to the bone. And it was captured on camera, a lot of it.
Wow.
They edited that part out of the movie. But anyone who wants to be an umbrage theft, check this movie out and think twice before you do it.
There you go.
But otherwise, right on, Loy, good theme, and your message is totally appropriate.
Thanks, Jack. Welcome back.
If they try to steal your umbrage, you just slap their hand
Just
and say,
let them know.
Yeah.
And remember, ridicule is the key because it's all about their ego.
Laughter is the best medicine.
That's right.
Hey, we'll be back next week here on Upstream with Cashel and Edge. Oh, by the way, I should say, brought to you by the good folks at Real Media here in Overland Park, Kansas.
Real Media. We've got everything here at Real Media, and they treat us great. And
They do.
And
much
really,
better than we deserve.
Oh, absolutely.
At least much better than I deserve. But
Well,
Yeah.
you're going to do a podcast for your company, or you want help promoting your company, you're doing videos, or if you'd like to have Real Media come in and do an assessment and catalog everything you have in all those computers,
Right.
all those files, you lost control of it, you really don't know where everything is, it's in old formats, old platforms, everything. Real Media will come in and we'll organize that for you and get you started down on a road of using that material.
hey, and kudos to Kansans for Life who, intrigued by our podcast, decide to sign on here for themselves and just sign
is
the
that
contract
right?
with Real Media.
Excellent.
So yeah, they'll. It's a good format. It's easy format, and it's a good way to get your message out.
Yep.
And we'll talk about that more next week when we see you here on Upstream with Cashel and Edge.
Bye.